annoncer Waneta. ICCR. ICCR.
Ok, attendez de mettre les... Ça va être une minute, juste pour dire pourquoi c'est le cours. C'est Vanessa qui commence. Donc la annonce.
Vous démarrez d'abord. Et je vais leur dire ce qui va être contenu dans les messages de chaque network. C'est tout. Et puis j'annonce maintenant Waneta.
Good evening. I hope that you have a very strong coffee to be able to follow all details of this session. So you need to be awake. Otherwise you will miss very, very important things. So my name is Suleiman Boub, and I'm the coordinator of the Wanetam network, between others. And I will be sharing with my colleague, Veronique, on this session on the different networks of excellence. Very brief introduction regarding why those networks of excellence. For those we know, at the first call of EDCTP, most of the grants went to South Africa and very little at East Africa and almost none in West Africa and Central Africa. And this is why the African group decided to try to fill this balance by creating those networks of excellence. I think you will see during the presentation all the progress made and why it was needed to have such kind of organizations. We have 1 hour and a half, and I think my chair and myself have democratically or not decided, because I think the presentation were meant to be in 20 minutes, but we want a really strong discussion. We want your contributions, and we will try to ask the presenter to limit to 15 minutes. Do your best, I know, last minute to reduce presentation, but I think also the really discussions, the exchanges are very, very key in such kind, because we want to hear also from you. So if you can, Veronique.
Thank you, Professor Suleiman Boub. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Veronique Benlab, Professor in Biochemistry from the University of Yaoundé 1, head of the Clinical Research and Biology Unit at the Catholic University also, head of the TB laboratory. I've been a PI within Cantam since the beginning, since the starting. I'm sitting here on behalf of Francine, as you can see. Francine couldn't make it. So this afternoon, all the 4 networks that have been funded by EDCTP are going to present you their past achievement, their progress report, something about the challenges and perspectives. So we are starting with Wanetam. Is one of the West African network EDCTP funded project. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. It is really a privilege for us as Network of Excellence to be here tonight to really present the output and outcome and some of the impact of this huge investment given by the EDCTP. And may I start by thanking EDCTP for supporting the 4 networks of excellence the past decades. So let's go straight to the gist. I'll be presenting with my colleague, Dr. Toyin Togun, who is really going to be the main speaker, and our colleague Badu Gai will also present one of our achievements. So let's go straight to the gist. Talking about the network without, coming back to the history of the landscape of research in Africa is like jumping to the pool without preparing. So we all know the environment in Africa. We account for nearly 18% of the world population, but only 1.1% of our GDP is dedicated to research, which is very tiny. And on top of that, our researchers used to work in silos, small groups, no collaboration, and the output of research most of the time kept in drawers and old fridges and not used accordingly. And also, we all know that funding is mainly provided by donors. If you can tell me how much your government are giving to your network to support your research, we'll know that it is very tiny also. And as you know, most of us, when we go abroad to study, we stay there. So our talent are drained. So this is why EDCTP decided to support, to set the stage for quality clinical trial in West Africa, and they established the 4 networks in 2009. So WANITAM started with 14 institutions from 7 West African countries from 2009 to 2014. Then we went to WANITAM 2 with 16 institutions from 9 West African countries and 5 European partners. Then we moved to WANITAM 3, which is ongoing, 2021 to 2024, a huge network with 30 partners in total, 25 from 12 African countries and 5 from European countries. So WANITAM is closing very soon, so there is a question mark. What's the next step? We'll certainly answer together. So what are we doing? Our vision is to attain expertise in West Africa to conduct clinical trials and clinical research for the control of poverty-related diseases. And we have a mission to build regional, national, institutional, and individual capacities to conduct clinical trial, respecting international standards. So we focus on trainings, mentorship, promotion of South-South and North-South collaboration. We foster relation between researchers, communities, and policy makers to really maximize the impact of clinical trials. So I'll give the floor to my colleague Toyin, who is really going to give you the gist of our achievement. Toyin, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Toyin Togun, and I co-lead the TB network within WANITAM, together with Professor Martin Antonio, who is not here, as well as Professor Dorothy Yeboah-Manu, who is right here in the audience. I'm going to be talking more about the WANITAM program strategy, as well as focusing on the achievements and start of infrastructural development over years. Currently, the WANITAM comprises these 5 main work packages, which are disease-specific themes, that is TB, malaria, HIV, neglected tropical diseases, as well as emerging and re-emerging infections and COVID and epidemic preparedness. And these 5 work packages have underpinning support by 2 cross-cutting themes. That's work package 6, training and support, as well as 7th work package, project management and advocacy. But I'll give a brief historical perspective about the WANITAM. The first funding cycle was between 2009 and 2014, in which was the first time in which researchers and institutions from Anglophone, Francophone, and Lusophone countries came together, which was unique and is still unique. And it comprises 14 institutions from 7 West African countries. And the program of work essentially was focused on capacity building, essentially around 3 main diseases, TB, HIV, and malaria, with MRC the Gambia, Le Dantec University in Senegal, and MRTC Mali providing the leadership. The second funding cycle was between 2017 and 2021 with WANITAM 2, and the focus essentially then, this consolidated on the foundation of WANITAM 1, and the network grew to include 16 institutions, as JP mentioned. But the focus was to train research leaders and to conduct hands-on clinical and field studies, as well as to develop resources and platforms that will serve as infrastructure that will support clinical trials as well as clinical research. For WANITAM 2, there were four main networks, but that's malaria, TB, HIV, and NTD. But each of these networks essentially conducted a program of training and research around surveillance, diagnostics, and clinical trial. And specifically, for example, the malaria network established capacity for community-based interventions in disrupting malaria transmission. The TB network established a multi-country diagnostic research platform for childhood tuberculosis. And the three networks essentially also established capacity for to determine safety of new vaccine, as well as to investigate the performance of novel diagnostics. Now, WANITAM 3, which is this third funding cycle, as mentioned, comprised of 30 institutions, 25 institutions from 12 West African countries, working in partnership with 5 institutions from 4 European countries. That is a huge network. And the WANITAM 3 essentially consolidated on the achievements from WANITAM 1 and WANITAM 2, but with a step change in the scale and aspiration. So the focus is to strengthen collaboration and to optimize the use of the resources and infrastructure within the network, as well as to promote South-South collaboration, particularly between researchers and institutions across the network, as well as North-South collaboration. And within this, one of our renewed emphasis is to strengthen engagement with Guinea-Bissau in particular, which is one of the 2 Lusophone countries in West Africa. We're also promoting networking and dialogue between researchers and policymakers, and particularly in this area, one of the key achievements is the buy-in from the West African Health Organization, which is the health policy arm of the Economic Community of West African States. Now, there's a typographical mistake on this slide because it shouldn't be achievement, but it should be achievements in plural, and as you're going to see. WANITAM 3 is benefiting from the infrastructural development within this large network, and as I mentioned, as it was that we have institutions and researchers from both Francophone, Anglophone, and Lusophone countries coming together, thereby providing essentially generalizability that represents the heterogeneity and diversity across West Africa, both in terms of human population genetics as well as pathogen genomics, with institutions that have relatively stronger research and research infrastructure, providing support for those institutions across West Africa that are partner institutions within the network that are relatively weaker in terms of research infrastructure. And some of the achievements, essentially, we can look at this in terms of diagnosis. The network has enabled the use and rollout of GeneSpart Ultra-Assay for diagnosis of childhood tuberculosis, as well as TB in adults within the national health systems in West Africa, as well as establishing capacity for TB drug susceptibility testing. And the malaria work package have also established molecular techniques for diagnosis of malaria infection, while there's been establishment of capacity for evaluation of efficacy of new insecticides. And in terms of resources and platforms, the network now has a sub-network. For example, the establishment of the West African Pediatric TB Network that comprises clinical researchers, scientists, policymakers, with focused interest on pediatric tuberculosis. And also the drug-resistant tuberculosis have a platform for that capitalize on the expanding capacity for genomics and bioinformatics across the network. And specifically, I want to highlight the paper that showed that, that was published by the WANITAM network, essentially showing that the prevalence of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis is higher than what's reported from WHO estimates at 6% among new cases and 35% among retreatment TB cases. And for clinical and field studies, for example, we've published a study on diagnostic accuracy of GeneSpart Ultra-Assay for diagnosis of childhood tuberculosis within national health system. This was a pragmatic study, and this is going to be presented, I think, today or tomorrow by Dr. Awaba Diallo, who was a former postdoctoral fellow in my group. And also with the COVID-19 pandemic, the capacity that the WANITAM network has supported in developing across the network came to be very useful in allowing an early response across the institutions in West Africa. And the other work packages also have similar ongoing studies that have been conducted as part of with support of the infrastructure as well as the clinical capacity that was developed by the network. And in terms of short-term training, you can see the total number of individuals who were trained by all the work packages was 686, about 60% to 40% when you look at it in terms of gender distribution. With number of, in terms of long-term training, MSc, PhDs, and postdoctoral fellows, we've had more than 20 individuals who've been trained with 15 PhDs as well as 5 postdoctoral fellowships. Now, quality assurance of laboratory as well as capacity for clinical trials are very important, given that the aim, the objective of the EDCTP and network is to establish the capacity for conducting clinical trials. The Warrington network has supported the training of 10 certified quality auditors across West Africa, and between Warrington 1 and 3, the total number of laboratories that are now ISO 15189 accredited has increased, and almost 10 institutions either are fully accredited or about to receive the full accreditation. In terms of capacity for clinical trials, the total of 23 trial monitors have been trained, and particularly based on the infrastructure, data management support, and training provided by the Warrington network, many of the institutions across West Africa are now able to work in collaboration with partners from Europe. And I want to highlight this important work led by my brother Alizu Tinto from the Clinical Research Unit of NANORO on this study on the efficacy of low-dose candidate malaria vaccine R21, which, as you all know, has just been recently pre-qualified by the WHO. Now, West Africa is a place that's known to have a challenge when it comes to gender gap in clinical research capacity from various reports by UNESCO and a number of others. And this is an area that Warrington is ideally positioned to address. And we are doing this within the Talent Program, which is a courtesy of a supplementary grant that we received from the EDCTP to train specifically female early career scientists at MSc and PhD level in West Africa. This is a slide that I'm really excited about anytime I see it, because these are the first cohort of the Talent PhD students, all female scientists who are now registered and are embedded within partner institutions across West Africa for their PhD. A number of them are, one of them is here actually presenting a poster from our ongoing work. That's Sheila from Ghana, working on childhood tuberculosis. We have Matu from Sierra Leone, Kumbasen, who's from Senegal, Fatima Diallo from Mali, and Gloria, also from Ghana, and Uche from West Africa. As well as these PhD students, we also have, in addition, 2 MScs specifically for early career scientists from Guinea-Bissau. So we're also engaging with a targeted focus on Guinea-Bissau, which is the only Lusophone country within the network. Now, in terms of sustainability, as JP, and we've mentioned that Warrington 3 will be concluding next year, but we have established activities that will enhance sustainability of the network. First is the progress that's been made in scientific pilot projects. While the Warrington network was established essentially as a capacity building network, over the years, the number of scientific studies that have been conducted by the network has increased, and importantly, with the growing number of PhD and postdoctoral fellows, we now have a growing portfolio of publications from the network. We've also established shared platform, and very important among this is the L Data Research West Africa, which the next speaker will talk about. This is an open data sharing platform that's been established across the network. Also, I talk about the professional development, the Talent PhD fellowships. We have several postdoctoral pump priming funds that's given short-term grants award for early career scientists, as well as postdoctoral mentorship and attachment and building skills. And recently, we submitted a Global Health EDCTP 3 training network for early career postdoctoral fellowship. And again, one of the work packages in this application is focused specifically on Guinea-Bissau with PhD and postdoctoral fellows in collaboration with University of Lisbon. And finally, in terms of partnership and community engagement, the network is now attracting collaborations from Pfizer, a number of pharmaceutical industries who are keen to work with us. And also important is our key engagement with the regional policymakers, West African Health Organization. And just a couple of success stories from Warrington 1, Warrington 2, particularly Warrington 2. These are some of the researchers who have been trained, who are now occupying leadership positions. Our Diallo, she's here, she was a former postdoctoral fellow in my team, and between 2020 and 2021, She is now a senior faculty and a clinical researcher at the Cheikh Anta Diop University in Senegal. Al Mustafa Mahiga from from Mali, Sophia Osawi from Institute of Human Biology in Nigeria, and Oretu Bari from Burkina Faso are all individuals who received short-term training through the network and are now occupying important positions of leadership in their institutions. The number of publications definitely we can't just fit all of them in one slide, but I just decided to highlight a couple of some publications to showcase some of the growing portfolio of publications from the network. Importantly is the SARS-CoV-2 sequencing collab that was developed collaboratively across West Africa, building on the infrastructure and the support of the One-Time network. I'll now hand over to Baduge to talk a bit about the Health Data Research West Africa.
Thank you, Toyin. Thank you very much. Fantastic. So, bearing in mind that we are constrained with time, I would rather promise, because I know the issue of data sharing has always been very emotive when presented in front of scientists, that it captures the whole discussions afterwards. So, and I know that that's going to be the case. So I promise you a cup of coffee each, if at all that's not the case, just betting. So One-Time has been able to establish a data sharing platform, which is called the Health Data Research for West Africa. And the reason behind this is to make knowledge discovery and improve scientific, improvements through the sharing of data, because we all know that science is all about collaboration as well as capacity building. So we listened to a lot of opinions from the scientific community as to their concerns of data sharing in terms of academic recognition, in terms of authorship, in terms of data ownership, and we've come with a solution to ensure that there is secure and ethical sharing of health data. We also came up with a data protection and privacy policy which complies with relevant laws, including best standards like GDPR. And we also made sure that data shared would remove all personally identifiable information. That means that the data has to be pseudonymized before it is shared. We also have a robust governance framework consisting of a data sharing committee, data access committee, and a steering committee to ensure that applications for data access would be managed by the data access committee and would conform with the data access guidelines before data is ethically shared. And of course, a data access application form would also be sent to a data access committee. So for more information, we would urge you to visit our website, which is the Health Data Research West Africa website. And I leave it to the platform. I now leave it to the floor to have more discussions. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, One-Time, for this huge deliverable. So I give you the floor, Professor.
Yeah, from West Africa now we will move to Central Africa. The message is clear. So it's Kantam.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I want to thank EDCP for this opportunity to showcase exactly what we have done and the plan forward. So I will not labor the point again to try to enumerate what Jean-Pierre said. So the discussion will be on background and achievement, objectives and progress for phase 3, challenges and conclusion. So actually with Central Africa, we actually began with a very small structure with just 3 Central African countries and the northern partner, which is Germany. It was more on infrastructure. We had nothing, so we had to develop the infrastructure so that we could even have a voice. So then we moved to phase 2. We realized that, okay, it's better to expand. When we expand, we are bigger, we are stronger, we can challenge the other biggest networks in the south and the east. So we added the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, the Netherlands, and United Kingdom. And then we had 12 countries and 12 institutions involved. So these are the different institutions involved in the network, the Cantam network. And you see how they've developed. And we are moving from face to face. So this is actually the team. So many students always come to me and say, how can I get to Cantam? How do we get involved? It's like it's closed. So I told them that the gateway to the networks is through these PIs. So this team, all the students and fellows who are interested, because this question is going to come up again, so it's for them to try to get hold of one of the faces they see on this picture. So this is the engine of Cantam, of the Networks of Excellence. So now, Cantam infrastructure expansion. Actually, these are the updated version of the infrastructures, and we see the new structures which are up and running. At the beginning, it's just that we don't want to waste time. The old structures were really, really ugly during the beginning. So this is actually the field epidemiology on malaria, tuberculosis, and neglected tropical disease in the sub-regions, in the outskirts, so that you see the forest. And so we went down to the different institutions are involved. Yeah, looking at scientific publication, we during the phase 1, we had 35. Phase 2, 43, and phase 3 ongoing, we have 24. So our main focus is mainly to train, capacity building, to train PhD master students. So normally when the funds come in, EDCP will say we need 2 or 3 PhD students, but we can't just take the money and train just one. We try to spread it. That's why we could have more of what we have. Major achievement during the phase 2, we more than 7 PIs promoted from PhD lecturers to full professors in the different Cantam countries. For example, Velavan now is a full-time professor, Akim is full-time professor, and many others, even some students who started with their masters. We have more than 23 students benefited from this venture. 15 mentors supervised 25 mentees through the mentoring program. And we developed this career development fellowship within the project so that we could have a multiplier effect. And most of the PhD students mentored some master students, and then they all had their degrees. Then regarding the short-term trainings, we had more than 1,635 participants benefited from the 19 different workshops provided. Cross-cutting training researchers in Central Africa. Still on the achievement, it's not only on what EDCP wants us to do. We actually try to do inter and multidisciplinary expertise. We try to get into the veterinarians, the physician, biomedical, and public health sites. And then we have additional funders and contributors. So we have been brainstorming all the time. If there is no more EDCP, what next? So these, the fact that we had the platform, we definitely had to lobby and negotiate with other partners who could support us, and then we are actually expanding. And the trick actually is we are still thinking, after the training, what next with the fellows? Most of the time, they travel out. So we are thinking of a plan to bring in partners who can come and build structures where once you have a PhD, you can remain in the city, in the countries. Yeah, phase 3 and progress. Definitely, we realized the governance structure was a little bit not good, so we decided to see how we could expand. So we added the ethic advisor. So with the external advisory board, we also decided to spread the leadership with deputy country coordinators. So each deputy country coordinator looked into the affairs of each country, so that the power could be shared and then looked into keenly. We had key deliverables, actually, to train 8 female scientists, accreditation of at least 2 labs, conduct of 4 clinical trials, mapping disease prevalence incidents, and also providing adverse pharmacovigilance cases. Work package 1, it's led by SEMEL and under the leadership of Professor Kim. It's on epidemiological and surveillance on malaria, tuberculosis, HIV, and NTDs. Normally he leads, but it's spread to all the institutions of the network. Well, I will not belabor this point because of time. We have a validated protocol which is ongoing, and the ethic clearance are all, I think almost all is ready. It's no more ongoing, it's available. And then Gabon epidemiological surveillance, Republic of Congo, plasmodium infection, Cameroon on TB, COVID-19 co-infection. And most of these students now have defended their masters and their PhD. Zambia, we are working actually on a CAP study. The main protocol is out, and the different institutions are working on it, and I think some master students have even defended. So this exercise is actually ongoing. Work package 2 is actually strengthening clinical investigation of traditional medicines for parasites and viral infection, led by University of Yaoundé 1, Professor Penlab. So we started with students, so that students should have protocols and try to see exactly how they can develop the protocols. With the protocol now, we can invite the traditional healers that are in the country, because in reality, more than 70% of treatment of COVID, we realized they didn't use the tablets, but they used traditional medicines and herbs. Even some clinicians developed those herbs and were selling in their clinics. So I myself, I got one for my COVID. So it's actually ongoing, and we have planned a workshop for I think January, February, with the outcome of the students, the protocols, and then we were going to compare with exactly what those traditional healers who are recognized in the country will present. Work package 3 is pharmacovigilance, regulatory authorities, and ethics committees, led by Professor Messia of Kinshasa, UNIKIN. Work package 3, actually capacity building, career development fellowship, and mentorship. Actually, it's SIM, which we're following up with. I think many of the students have been recruited, and they all had their protocols. And we are actually developing soft skills for training. And we are also working with the Global Health Network with soft skills, like the technical working group on the data management and training. And so these are the different students that have been recruited for this phase 3 program. I think we have 14 masters and 21 PhD students. Training workshops have been done. We have training on quantum clinical research monitors by the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute. The problem now is, what next after the training of these students? We've trained them, they came back. What next? Nothing. So it's actually a gap which needs to be filled. If we had clinical studies or even the networking, I think those students who came back will always be visible for activities. So I think those soft skills need to be used, not just train and then dump. Yeah, so actually this is a side project which was sponsored by EDCTP and the UK. At the beginning, we wanted just 8 female scientists, but we decided to expand, and we have 11 female scientists who benefited from this program. Wise, I think all of the students are doing well. 2 of them, I think, must have completed. Actually, the funds can't manage the whole PhD process. So it's kind of an assistant. So some of the students think or believe that we have funds to take them from the start to the end. No, little bits makes the ocean. So I think everybody is happy, and on top of that, even some of the master students benefit from their work. Work package 5, exploitation, dissemination, communication, networking, advocacy. This is actually under FCRM, and it's ongoing, and we have been more visible. I think we have a lot of partnership from different institutions and different, we have been having calls for negotiation collaboration. So I think we are really doing a good job with the dissemination. Advocacy activity, governance level, well, so these are some of the activities going on. We have a leadership. Prof. Francine is actually everywhere, and she is actually pulling the attention towards Kantam network. We also collaborate with other networks. For example, the Global Health Network. We had this conference in South Africa, Cape Town. I mean, the 4 networks came together and showcased what they are doing, and everybody was happy to get to the networks. So it's a positive move. Prof. Camille was presented his award to the Prime Minister of Cameroon. He had the Fondation Muriot Prix. So I think he used that money to upgrade his lab. If we go to Cameroon now, you will be impressed with what you will see, because thanks to the extra support from Fondation Muriot to support the infrastructure again. Yeah, partnership and collaboration is key. We can't make it alone, so definitely we are always lobbying for collaboration, and I think it's yielding a lot of fruits. We are open, and you see the different collaborators we have, and it's in progress. I think I will not labor much on this, because there's much in it and more to discuss. Now, looking at the challenges and sustainability, implementation of the Kantam business plan and alignment with key policymakers is really challenging, but we are trying to break that bond, and then strengthening collaboration with commercial clinical bodies to lobby for clinical research opportunities in the region, unite all networks of excellence to collectively develop clinical research opportunities and data sharing and management platforms. It's in pipeline, and definitely we are building on it. Limited interest in funding for neglected tropical diseases, and delay in submitting report from collaborative partners. So, I mean, it's a challenge which I think we are working. I don't know, we have been strategizing to ensure we have our report coming on time, but it's always difficult, like when there's, example is we have a problem with Gabon. There's war in Gabon, so we could not really get back feedback. We had workshops, we could not organize the workshop because of war. But EDCP wants his report, so it's really sometimes very, very, very challenging. I think together we can, and we will always make it as a team. I want to thank the team, and this is the team working together in Kantam. Thank you.
Thank you for this comprehensive presentation. So now, Professor Penlat.
Okay, the floor now will be to ECCR, the East Africa. You have the floor.
Okay, so Rodriguez has been skipped, but it's well. So Bernard is my name, and I'm the Scientific Liaisons Officer for the East African Consortium for Clinical Research, which is funded for East Africa. So I think like everybody else, some of these are more rhetoric stuff, but we've existed since 2009, and we're in our 3rd round of funding. And as you can see, our remit is to build capacity for ICH-GCP research in the East African region. And we have partners. I think total we have about 28 institutions from 6 Southern African countries and 5 Northern countries. And that's our leadership. Professor Pontiano couldn't be here, is the overall coordinator. And we were here with Professor Blandina over the weekend, and she had to go back to attend a board meeting at KCRI. And then I lead the HIV work package. Norbert Pescio has actually retired, but he has been leading the malaria work package in Kilifi at KEMRI. Reginald Kavishe at KCRI is leading the training work package. Eric Mock leads the neglected work, infectious diseases. And actually, Professor Sayoki has also retired from NIMRI, Mahimbili in Dar es Salaam, and then Emile, who is behind, is our project manager. So quickly, a few things we've been able to do. We have clinical research monitors. As many of you that actually conduct research will know that there's need for clinical research monitoring. And previously, the region has been, leaning on commercial clinical research, CRAs, to provide clinical research monitoring, and this is quite expensive. And so I think Trudy Lang here actually has spearheaded that in ESCCR1, and we now have close to 35 monitors. And they've been doing a great job, monitored over 50 studies overall. And we're now beginning to get a few sponsors come to us requesting us to do the monitoring of the studies. ESCCR2, I think we did have about 6 PhDs that were supported to write further grants, 19 MSc students, 5 PhDs and 5 postdocs, and quite a number of people who are trained on short courses, really on job skilling for clinical research. Several of them, molecular diagnostics, epidemiology, microscopy, and all these things to just ensure that actually people do a great job. And together with the THHN, we've been running these 11 online courses, which we try to promote. We don't have the metrics yet from Bonnie and team, but I think there are quite a number of people, especially the GCP course and the bioethics course. A number of people have actually been doing that. And we had 2 posters here trying to showcase that work. Mentorship scheme, I think the key thing here is that as a network, we want to be very strong on mentorship. We think this is very important because not everything can be taught in class. And so we've set up a huge mentorship scheme, which has a platform where you join, students to senior researchers, junior researchers to students, and they can interact in different countries through this platform, as we can see. And some of our people were part of the expert fellows. I'll be showing you that picture of the platform later. These are a few of the people that we've seen grow through the system over the years, who began with ESCCR1, as junior researchers. Adeo is now an assistant director at Uganda Virus Research Institute. Senkoro Mbazi, who I think joined the network as an MSc student, is actually now leading the NIMRI Muhimbili unit and the TB node taking over from Finanga. Jonathan is now the head of the entomology, doing a lot of work with target malaria and the gene drive to try and control malaria through altering the genes of mosquitoes. Eric Mwok is now the deputy director of KEMRI, which is the Kenya Medical Research Institute in Kisumu, Center for Global Health, and he leads our NID network. Myself, and then Marion Sumari, I think she also had a bit of presentations here. She's also leading. And then the 3, I think I would like to highlight Unia down there. Unia joined us when she's still at MSc level, and she's now leading big research. She's leading our point of care viral load monitoring study, and we're now supporting to see her through her PhD. This is our mentorship platform. That's what you can connect. And as you can see, we already have a bit of students and junior researchers in there. So people can interact. You don't have to be in the same country to interact at this level. This platform is enabling people across the region to interact as senior researchers and junior researchers and ensure that things are going. And we are now beginning to see that universities are asking to adopt this system to support their PhD students, have closer interactions with their supervisors. And we think that this is going to be a big, big game changer in mentorship. A number of studies done. This can never be exhaustive, of course, but these are just a few of the studies we've done. I want to highlight the PrepVac study there. Jonathan Webber and Professor Pontiano Kalebu, which is looking at combining, a pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV and then an HIV vaccine to see if then it improves prevention of HIV among young people. And then we have that, one of our big babies, the East African Point of Care Viral Load Monitoring Study, trying to see if we can improve viral load suppression among adolescents and young people. We know that this is the group that has a challenge in suppressing viral load, but most of our countries that are PEPFAR funded actually have centralized monitoring, because the equipment for viral load monitoring is expensive. It can't be in every small facility. So most countries, have hubs where samples are collected and then sent to a central lab somewhere in a capital city, and then the samples are tested and results are cascaded back. Now that, good as it is, has its own challenges. The turnaround time in itself can be a challenge. Most samples come and results you get within, best case scenario, 1 week. And then, the risk of samples getting lost, mislabeling, and everything. And then by the time the results come back, the patient is gone. The patient will come back after 3 months. So treating a person for viral load with results that are 3 months old is really not good science or medicine. So we are thinking that if we started to do point-of-care viral load monitoring, patient comes, do the viral load, wait for 1 hour, they have their result, and a decision can be taken. We think this is actually going to be a game changer. So we are running that 28 sites across the whole of East Africa, and we think that that is going to actually be a big game changer in the care for HIV. And, obviously the students do a lot of science for us. We've supported laboratories for ISO certification. I think a bit of laboratory upgrades. You buy equipment here and there, support a facility to be upgraded by equipment. Data centers have been set up, and clinical research sites have actually been upgraded. And, the point-of-care viral load monitoring study, it's in 28 sites that have actually been supported by the network to be upgraded. The people have been trained, so they can actually conduct now GCP research across the region. That picture we had supported a hospital to set up an IRB, from setting up the offices to training the people to getting it accredited by the National Council for Science and Technology, and seeing the baby steps in them starting to review scientific protocols is what has happened. A lot of collaborations have happened. We cannot enlist all of them, but those are some of the few. And these are really specifically those that are funded by EDCTP, but there are several others that we've participated with. ESCCR3, I think our biggest strategy here is to build capacity through hands-on and mentorship. So you could see that previously the focus has been a lot of, training, infrastructure. We think that ESCCR3, we've trained enough. So can we get people to actually do science? And so what we did is, in our proposal, we did write 15 studies in there. Of course, running 15 studies for 3 years is a bit ambitious, but we think we shall achieve. And all these studies are actually led by junior scientists. None of them is led by somebody with a PhD. All of them are generally master's students or people who are working on these studies to become PhD students. And we think that is actually going to be a game changer, because if you have a student leading a study that is, multi-site, of course with support and mentorship, then we believe that would be great. So out of the 15, as you can see, 73% of them are actually in data collection. I think 7% represents one really who has completed data collection, and that is the spread across the different work packages. 7 short courses already done, 138 participants in there, different skilling, bioethics, like we said, HIV prevention training, bioethics, and all those. And we have enrolled 9 PhD students and MScs. And of course, like I already said, the mentorship framework has been launched. I did mention a little bit about ethics support. We've supported different facilities to set up ethical review committees. I'll give an example for Uganda. There are hospitals that conduct a lot of research but do not have IRBs, and they depend on an IRB that is 300 kilometers away to review their studies. So we support some of these people to set up ethics committees so they can be able to review. And this is one of them where we found the hospital, they had a scientific committee, So we trained that committee. They didn't have an office. They had a very old, dilapidated building that, had been taken over by bats. And that's what the hospital administration actually said. If you wish, this is where you can support. So we actually did renovate the facility, equipped it or furnished it. We've trained the people, they've learned, they've actually worked with them to develop SOPs, and we are now getting to the level of them being accredited so that they can begin to review research. So that's the kind. We walk the whole journey with whoever we engage. These are some of our deliverables. I think I want to go through that. That's what we've been able to do, and that's what we've not been able to do. I think this is a repeated slide. I don't want to show, but the idea here is that we are seeing the younger people now move into leadership. You remember the first slide I showed you, there were about 4 or 5 people that have retired, and others are now moving into retirement. We've been lucky. We are able now to have a younger generation now come on to take the leadership. Well, we almost had a crisis in the malaria work package where Norbert actually reached retirement before he could identify a replacement. But thankfully now we have identified a replacement, and actually the activities for the malaria work package are going to be happening. Quickly, I think everybody has talked about the female PhD program. We call ours the Cafe C, which is capacity building for female scientists in East Africa. We have 8 students, 1 from Burundi, 1 from South Sudan, Rwanda, Zanzibar, Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. And all our students have actually enrolled. I think a bit of an unfortunate thing, the South Sudan student was actually found to be a bit weak, so the supervisors recommended she first takes on an MSc, which she has gladly enrolled in. There were issues. She was trained in Arabic, a little research experience. So now we are training her in English, teaching her basics of research before we can push her to a PhD. But the other 7 have enrolled. They all have the ETHCA approvals. They've started data collection. We designed it to give them a foundation training for basic science, and they've done all the 7 courses. Each student is working with an MSc student to make sure that there is continuity. And what we are doing is 4 of them now, we are working with them to apply for additional funding, because the total funding may not be enough to pay tuition and support laboratory work and living expenses and all these kinds of things. So we are looking for a bit of supportive funding for that. And we are also encouraging them actually to make presentations. One of them should have been with us, I think the student from Kenya, but she failed to get the visa. So we are trying to engage them in as much scientific activities as possible. Maybe I shouldn't go into the challenges there. May not be so necessary. I think it's the same. But future perspectives, I think the key thing is to increase networking. You will notice that in the presentation, there's been not a lot of laboratory work, and we think laboratory support research. So our next level is now to improve the networking at laboratory level, to make sure that these labs can also work together, because there is a lot of capacity within the region, but not in one institution. So we want to see this come on board. Like we've been arguing, clinical trial is an ecosystem. It cannot only be scientists. So our institutions might be great on scientists, but sometimes things around grant management and research support is what lets us down. So we are thinking we need now to begin putting a bit of support there. The people to manage the finances and everything, support the scientists to write a budget and actually follow the budget, and this kind of stuff is something that has not been very strong. And then social science research as well makes a lot of sense to put a bit of the findings in perspective. We want to be ambitious. We've had a lot of funding, as you see shortly, from EDCTP, but we are thinking that there are other big global players in the networking. For instance, pharmaceutical companies. We want to begin to attract pharma. That's why we are setting up these sites. That's why we are training the people. That's why we are putting up IRBs. That's why we have the clinical research monitors. So pharmaceuticals are comfortable to come to us and conduct research. But also, there are bigger networks, people conducting the vaccine trials. They should be coming to us because we have the sites, we have the personnel. And so that is our ambition, where we want to go. Then collaborations with regional bodies, Africa CDC, I think there have been attempts with Trudy Lang and TGHN to bring this on board, and I think it's good work in progress. WHO Afro, because the work we do at the end of the day should inform policy to help improve the lives of the Africans. And like I said, we need to begin to win other grants. I think we've mentioned most of this stuff, so I don't want to go through that. This is some of the the funding we've been able to attract. it's mainly EDCTP funds, and we think that we need, thankfully there's EDCTP 3, so maybe we shall still be around, but we need, I think, to begin moving into the other direction. This is some of the other grants that we've currently put in for EDCTP 3. So we believe that with EDCTP funding, there's been a lot of capacity built in the region. And we are now at a point where we can attract a lot of science, improved South-South collaboration, and then, of course, the challenge of retaining trainees is a little bit of an issue, but we believe that as we keep working more clinical trials on the ground, we shall be able to attract and retain these people. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for this wonderful deliverable. Prof, you have the floor.
So now it's Tessa from Philip Rodriguez, Matthew.
Thank you and good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. I think the previous speaker have made my life easier. So Bernard was supposed to be the last one just to wrap up the 4 networks, but I think when I'm finished, you'll come in. I will try to make it in 15 minutes. So I think, as you can see, the scope and the programmatic activity is the same, so I will not go in detail because my previous speaker has already highlighted the key aspects. So this is my plan of the presentation. So I will discuss about the backgrounds, objectives, and then I will end up with tangent. So it will not take so long. So just a brief background of TESA. So we are implementing on EDCTP funded initiatives since 2009 through collaborative efforts to Southern Africa research academics and the institutes involved in clinical trials. So as you can see here, we are building 3 pillars. So we are made up of centers of excellence that collaborating with different level of expertise, and but we are complementary in clinical research landscapes. So we are bringing together institutions from Southern Africa countries in partnership with Europe, and we put more emphasis on building capacity in those countries that does not have a strong clinical research traditional with the regional. So in terms of the background, continuing, so over the last decade, TESA has a platform have made a significant progress in developing capacity through the initiative by TESA project and intra-country participating in the organization. So there is a need to continue promoting this capacity to equip the scientists among the TESA members with the key competence and excellence, while we ensure just to enable the resource, and then we research the scientists that have been trained within the region. So there is a need to expand training opportunities for stronger capacity within the region. In terms of the scope, it's not different from the previous speakers. So our scope and the strategic goals. So we are focused mainly in 3 pillars. The first one is just to develop the infrastructure. We put more focus on the laboratory accreditation, equipment upgrading, and the training and mentorship programs. So we do long and short-term trainings and benefit the member within the TESA network. And then, as you can see, while we are building the infrastructure, we're training students, so we need to optimize all those assets that we build within the region. So the ultimate goals is just to scale up sustainability and capacity for clinical trials and contribute to the economic and social development as well as the social well-being for all ages. So in terms of composition, our network is composed by 12 institutions for 8 countries in partnership with 3 European ones. So as you can see there, the African members are composed by Angola, the Angola Health Research Center, the BHP, it's Botswana Harvest Partnership, Bailo Foundation from Eswatini, Biomedical Health Research Trust Institute from Malawi, Fundação Manisa, where I'm from, Manisa Health Research Center in Mozambique, Namibia, is contribute with the University of Namibia, the Stellenbosch University, University of Cape Town, and the University of Teaching Hospital in Zambia, and the Biomedical Research Trust Institute, and University of Zimbabwe. So as you can see on top, The European members are composed by Amsterdam, Crane, and ICE Global from Spain. So this project or this platform are being coordinated by Fundação Manhissa, based in Mozambique. So this is our corporate governance structure. So we build on the 3 levels of strategy. So we have the first one, which is the decision-making board. At the median, you can see there is a coordination level. So this is a board that the package all the activities that have been implemented at site level. And then surrounding those governance, you can see that there are different countries or organizations that are implementing the project. So we call it at the level of operational level. So the first work package are led by Dr. Saud from Mozambique. So it speaks to the consortium management and coordination. Professor Ketten from University of Cape Town, he's leading the capacity building work package. And then the work package 3 is led by Dr. Rosemary Musonda from Botswana. So this has to speak about the impact communication policy dialogue. And the last work package, it's innovation from this grand opportunity. So it's led by Professor Frank from Netherlands. This has to do with the data management and sharing analysis. So this is a beautiful face that you can see. So this is a decision-making board. This is a PIs that constitute the participating countries. And down there you can see our approach. So I will not go in details in terms of the topic disease, but we focus more in tuberculosis, HIV, malaria. So my colleagues are sitting there. They have a lot of studying that are conducting within the region and intra-countries. So this is the approach that we are using to sustain the networks, so we can attract more grants, we can engage the scientists and build capacity in Africa. So the overall aims, we aim to expand research capacity using the strong institutions. As you can see, we count with the University of Cape Town, Stellenbosch University, Manhissa, Mozambique, and establish facilities that we already, it already exists, including reference laboratory and reference data management center, as well as the ongoing clinical trials, has a platform for institutional transformation and human resource development in the southern region. So this is a portfolio that we have within TESA. So TESA, there is no more projects. So we are programs. We are initiative that we have built capacity. So and the first pillar, as you can see, I just left the first program, but we start in TESA 2 where we consolidate the consortium. So this project has been closed. Now we are moving to TESA 3. This project is running from 2021 to 2024. So we have packaged there inside, as you can see, there is an ancillary project that he built, and then he bring more money to sustain the network. So we have a Tangendi, where we try to addressing the gender and disparity within the region. So this grant is going until 2025. And also we have another grant, which is ethical and regulatory capacity, that we call it in SIG. Now we are going to the SIG 2. And this project is sponsored by the EDCTP 3. And the last one is a data management center certification. So as you know, within the region, we're trying to build regional asset, where the less development site can have access and train the student and even to progress the human and the senior scientists to progress in their career. So we are continuing in process of accrediting this center. So if we succeed and achieve this milestone, we hope it will be the first one, the first data management center that will be certified in Africa. So this will be the huge milestone that we are going to set. So in terms of activity for the two projects, as you can see, we have already established a regional reference laboratory established. As you know, the issue of resource, it's a problem in Africa. So what we do, we just accredited 3 reference labs, one in tuberculosis within the Stellenbosch University, another one in HIV at Botswana, and malaria in Mozambique. So the idea here is just to share these resources with other members within the region so they can train to provide job and training. So this will be the regional asset for joint clinical trial, while we ensure access for the less development site. And also they will provide hands-on training. And within the site, we have a full spectrum of opportunities for clinical trial management, mentorship, and quality assurance. So, of course, we count with scientific advisory committee. We sit one a year, and so we have started with 2 members. Now we have expanded to 5. So this member here, that's the advisory board. They used to sit with us during the General Assembly, and they look at our implementation, our metrics, our KPIs, and they used to provide recommendation and how to move. So as you can see, the outcome are coming here. We have honored by Dr. Tetros from WHO. So the HIV reference laboratory has been recognized as a drug resistant laboratory collaborating with WHO. So this is a big achievement. And you just to remember, it was in this laboratory where the discovery of Omicron is coming from. So the another achievement, so we have Bonolo from Botswana. She has been awarded the L. UNESCO for Women in Science this year. She's a young talent in the region. And we also have Dr. Sikolile Moyo, who have been awarded the Martin Luther King Humanitarian Awards. I think he contributed a lot in discovery of the Omicron in Botswana. So as you can see, so the network has produced a lot. Now we're being recognized within the region. So I will not elaborate too much on data management center. So my colleagues have highlighted a lot. So we appeal for 150 ECRIN standards to get accreditation. So now we have concluded the phase 1. So as you know, this requires a lot of investment. So now we are moving to the phase 2, just to come up with the standards, documentation, SOPs, and all processes that have been set. As for now, the infrastructure are there. Now we are just struggling with the subs to continue building on this one. So that's why we just spread it out in 3 phases. So the 3 phases, it will be the end of the project where we plan to get the certification. So this is the working group disease. So I will not go in detail in terms of the stats, as my colleagues mentioned before. We also have a different stats running within the institutions, as you can see. In malaria, there is a quite a number of studies. So this is not a proposal just to discuss about the study, but okay, we can see here. My colleagues are sitting here. If the questions coming, I think they will assist me and answer those ones. Maybe they can list them. Dr. Rosemary, also she's sitting here. She's leading the HIV group. And Dr. Professor Andre Loxon from Stellenbosch is leading a group for TB. So as you can see, we have packaged different members in the groups, and they act as an independent organization to attract more grants and just to enable the network to sustain. So in terms of capacity building, in total, we already sponsor 18 master students, 9 PhD, and 4 postdoc. And we provide more than 30 short-term training that have been offered for more than 100 staff members within the region. So the infrastructure are there. We have upgraded our laboratory in different sites. This is some example of the short training course that we have done within the region. And we also use the work package 4, which is speak to the impact and communication. So we are lucky because the PIs intra-country, they engage with the Ministry of Health. So we do advocate when we launch the project. So the PI used to launch this project so that the policymakers can be involved and be informed on the different initiatives that were made. So when it speaks to the visibility in terms of the communication, so we have already developed the strategic communication plan. So this is now in place. We have a Remember TESA website, so I will share the link for you if you want to get more information about our network, which you can access and use. You can see that. This is our another goals that we have set to develop the strategic business plan. So this achievement, it will be done within this month. So we already have a first draft. And these are some of the activities we try to do advocate our members, because you know the issues of becoming membership in EDCTP is still a challenge. So at the coordination level, we used to advocate our colleagues in Malawi, Botswana, and other sites to become member of EDCTP. Yesterday, we have had the discussion there on the issue of the bilateral agreement. So this is something that we need to be aware and see how can we operationalize, because it's giving us, it's just taking us an opportunity that we have previously. So more than 73 peer review in terms of publication have been published. 13 have been submitted during these current grants. When it's come to the gender balance, yeah, as you can see here, we're above the number that we expected to have. There is no more gender balance. So the women are taking the lead. As you can see, there is a 54 percentage in terms of gender balance. But if you look at another graph, when I combine the two grants, the gender one, the grant that we have, the number has been increased, 56, which just means that the men have to struggle just to reverse the six. So the issue of gender balance is not easy like we think, because we put more emphasis in empowering the woman now. The woman are just, okay, but just that's the numbers.
2 minutes.
Okay, in terms of pathway and test sustainabilities, so we try to showcase our activity involving the regional blocks. As you can see, there is a lot of initiative in the region. So we just want to make sure that we are not duplicating the efforts. So we want to engage with the SADC, African Union, and CDC, so that we can showcase our activities, so they can combine and minimize the effort. In terms of the tangente, I will not detail in little bit. So we have 8 female students that have been awarded the scholarships. All are pursue their PhD. In terms of challenge, the membership in short I already highlight. Language barrier. Our consortium have 2 Portuguese-speaking countries, myself and Angola, so that's the challenge. Laboral strengthening is continuing, being mapped as a challenge because we need more investment to accredit another. But there is another opportunity. As long as we are working as a group, there is a window to continue collaborating and establish the framework. So the existence of the working league with the minister has to be put in place, and we build in our trust, sharing and optimize the results. In terms of the future, I already speak about this, just to engage in SADC regional blocks. There is a need for more functional joint clinical trial evidence ecosystems. We need to build more stronger capacity in the region. And we need long additional fund to allow more opportunities for students to apply their knowledge and be mature in the next. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for this achievement. Good presentation. The last one will be done by Trudy.
Thanks, everyone. Definitely the last slot, but the gender balance on the speakers, which is good. With my one of co-chair, I know, that's why. But actually, I have to shout out this talk really should be done by Christine Kirima, who's obviously also a woman, but she couldn't get her visa. One of the sad, that was how it worked. But I think she's online. So Christine, I'm presenting this for you. Christine Kirima is the Africa coordinator for the Global Health Network and works with many people. So just to finish off, I've only got 5 slides, so it shouldn't take long. The Global Health Network has worked with the networks of excellence from right at the beginning, which I'll show you in a second. And the role of the Global Health Network with all these incredible groups has been simply to convene and connect, try and remove duplication, and serve as a mechanism to really connect up these incredible initiatives that began so long ago, which I'll come back to in a second. When we first began talking about the networks of excellence in the, back, I think the first discussions began about 2007, before the grants were awarded. The idea was really to find centres of excellence in Africa, which we knew very well were there, and those that were working on HIV, TB, malaria, and we did this big scoping exercise, and we put up a map of Africa and where those places were. And everybody mostly in the room knows this. There was really excellent centres that were working on malaria, some others that were just TB, some others HIV, and it was as if the people in those regions only had HIV, TB, or malaria, and some, of course, worked on all 3. But then what about the other diseases? But the point was, it was so siloed and also that the pieces in the jigsaw didn't vary. It didn't matter which disease you were working on. And so the idea right back at the beginning was to try and bring together HIV, TB, malaria centres of excellence, but within the networks of excellence, match them with, we even called them sister sites at the beginning, very nice female phrase, but the strong sites with the less experience. And this is the journey, and it's just so fantastic personally to be standing here today and listening to the talks and seeing the photos of all those incredible individuals that have been nurtured through this long journey so many of us have been through. And so we were at the very beginning part of EACCR, and then the discussions with the others. And the Global Health Network came out of this. I talked a little bit about this morning, and I showed some up-to-date data this morning as well, where we know that the pieces that make research difficult do not differ whether you're working on HIV, TB, malaria, or leishmaniasis, or Ebola, or COVID when it came along. And Bernard's and others called out things like research management, data science, community engagement. These are the core cross-cutting areas of difficulty that if you want to establish a lasting, sustainable research team who can lead their own grants, win awards, develop careers, we need to strengthen research systems and health systems. And this is what everybody's trying to do. And that's disease agnostic. And it's about prioritizing the disease that's in front of you. And so when we began these discussions in '97, putting these ideas together, and then the applications were put in and they were awarded, this is where the idea for the Global Health Network came about, because we were trying to find a facility where we could enable access to knowledge where people didn't sit in one of the big programs like UVRI or KEMRI where I was, or any of the big programs. For those more junior sites and even those outside of these networks, how could they access those cross-cutting training courses, tools, resources, so they could apply for grants, set up studies, put SOPs in place? And so this is such a tiny, tiny capture of the journey that we've all had over these years. And just to call out some small things today, it's impossible to talk about all the work we've done over the years together. And it's just we're old friends now, aren't we? We've all worked together for so many years. And we convened last year in Cape Town. What we've tried to do is be that convening organisation across the networks of excellence and try and share these points together. But right at the very beginning, we developed the reciprocal monitoring system in Kilifi for exactly that reasons that Bernard's called out, to try and say that sites can monitor their own studies within big organisations of those big programs, and then we took that into EACR so that the sites could look after each other. The really nice thing with the reciprocal monitoring scheme, and I do urge you all to look, is we then took that to the Latin American network that was set up around Zika, and they put the reciprocal monitoring scheme in place, and we want to bring it back in now and take it into EDCTP 3. So, if you go online and look at reciprocal monitoring, put EACCR or REDI, R-E-D-E, it'll come up and find the toolkit. It's a fantastic system. We must publish on it. It's really nice. The GCP course that's on the Global Health Network, that's the flagship, really. We've had over 3.5 million online learning courses taken through the Global Health Network. And those early courses all came out of the networks of excellence. GCP, first of all, the ethics courses you heard about, good laboratory practice, the malaria training. There's so many now. And they're translated Portuguese, Spanish, French, and that's the whole point, is this accessibility. So as the Global Health Networks evolve, we've all moved through the evolution of EDCTP 1, 2, and now 3. I'll just share some really basic examples of how we've expanded even beyond Africa and beyond those sites. So the Zika outbreak came along, and we worked with the European Union to put a consortia together for doing Zika research. Now, many of the places where Zika occurred in Latin America, there were really low research capabilities in place. And so we put an application to the EU, which exactly mirrored the networks of excellence. And we were funded across that consortia, and the REDI network was born from that. And now the Global Health Network Latin America was funded this year, which is even built from that. And some really nice stories from there, connecting up the Portuguese-speaking countries and running workshops. And I'll come back to that in a second. there's been many other programs and projects that have come along around COVID or Ebola or Zika or some of the cross-cutting topics like data science or community engagement, where we've placed coordinators in with the networks of excellence or work with all of them to convene and connect and put out tools and resources that have been generated from one or all of them and connect them up to make sure that cross-sharing has happened. And of course, Alert and Pandora came out of after Ebola, and they were there ready in place to respond to COVID. A huge amount of work happened there, and work with all the networks of excellence around sharing disease characterization protocols, making sure these tools were translated, getting them taken up into different places. And so it goes on. Far too many examples. And now here we are in 2023, taking this forward, and I've stolen the 20 years and beyond, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So just bringing this right up to date to what we're doing right now, convening the networks. There's been a fantastic piece of work that you've heard a little bit about already, working with all the partners, including IDO, and also some of the other groups working on data science. Really excellent training and tools on data management and sharing. Strong working groups that have met every couple of weeks back from July, and the outputs now are really strong. I'm going to be shared with everybody. That will be available in French and soon other languages as well, I hope, and all the materials are there. So have a look, and you can find them, and I'm sure we can tell you more about them online, but across the networks as well. As I said earlier, the role of the Global Health Network with the Networks of Excellence has been the group that works across all of them. And so there's a presence on the Global Health Network for all the hubs, which link through and connect up with their own websites, the institutional ones, disease focus. But then we have this newsletter that everybody contributes to and really serves as a sort of single voice that brings it all together. This goes out to 13,000 people. And if any of you want to join on that mailing list, just let us know. Really strong communication teams from across the group. Jean-Pierre and Leonardo got to call out for your hard work on this. It's really popular. People love it. It's a great way to showcase things as well. Any new outputs from any of the networks, we can showcase that on the newsletter and also highlight it across the wider Global Health Network community as well. So just a couple of examples. And look, this is where we've all gone together. As I said, the Global Health Network was born out of... Okay, perfect. I'm just finishing. The Global Health Network was born out of all of this, and it's now a global entity, and it's a global franchise. We've MOUs and partnerships in place. It's led as this decentralized franchise with partners in Africa, Asia, Latin America. MENA's coming on board really quickly, which is exciting and links a lot of the North African countries and some of the gaps we have. And it's working really well and to actually amplify what the Networks of Excellence are doing as well. And we're also a WHO collaborating centre, so that helps with being the neutral broker and being able to connect and convene. And lastly, just to finish off, this is how the Networks of Excellence sit in the Global Health Network structure in Africa. This is what Christine is coordinating. And so we can leverage this. So lots of nice tools like doing research clubs in hospitals or data science clinics or how to do social science within your study. All of those cross-cutting topics we've talked about. We've got a whole new community of practice coming on board for research management, so that piece around managing grants and people and projects. And there's people in place in these, many of them in the Networks of Excellence, some with our wider partners. But these individuals are there to be capacity development officers and convene and connect. So we can help really amplify the work of the Networks of Excellence, even beyond the immediate members. So thank you very much. Just wanted to quickly show how we work together.
Thanks so much, Trudy, for this presentation. Shall we applaud for all the presentation that have been given this afternoon? So we still have 10 minutes remaining for the exchange. So we are going to get to have 5 questions. I suggest 1 for each presentation. You have the floor, Bilawan. You can start.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed all the 5 presentations, but it's a question for EDCTP. I believe someone is here to answer such a question. Great. All right, I just want to ask EDCTP, what are the real indicators of success in terms of sustainability for all these 4 centers, other than publications, bringing in funds? What exactly do you define sustainability in terms of indicators? Thank you.
Thank you. Next one.
Can I? Yeah, okay. Thank you. My name is Yoba.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the fascinating presentation. I just want to ask the different presenters, do you really get honest feedback from EDCTP and also your collaborators on how well you are doing, the things that you can change, the things that you can do better? I think it's actually important to know, because most of us don't get the feedback, and most of us they take decisions based on things that they don't tell us. So that's the reason I'm asking the question.
Thank you. The third question. If there is no more question, then I can ask one of the presenters maybe to try respond to who's going to take the floor. Thank you.
I think I'll take Yahuba's question about whether the networks get feedback. Absolutely. From the presentation and the organogram of each of the structures, of each of the networks, you will have seen that there we have the steering committee, you have the advisory board. I'm talking about internal mechanisms within each of the networks that exist, which are essentially independent and semi-independent group of experts that provide advice to each of the network in terms of the governance. So that is there. And with regard to EDCTP or communication between the network and the EDCTP, yeah, there are reports that are always submitted to the EDCTP, and each of the networks, after every sort of like cycle, after every couple of years, meet the scientific advisory committee of the EDCTP, and we just had a meeting in the byline of this forum last weekend, actually, which happens to be almost like you are going for a viva. you know, essentially it's like you are going for a viva. So because everything is sort of like critiqued in a very positive way, both from the finance, from the research governance, from the research proposals and training, all the objectives are evaluated. So there is that sort of like 360-degree feedback between the networks and EDCTP, and from EDCTP to the network, while each of the networks also have the internal mechanisms, you know, the steering committee, the advisory board, that provide also what we can say independent guidance and support for the networks. I don't know how maybe the other networks. Yeah. Okay, so they said.
Those other networks have something to add? No, it's excellent. We still have one question concerning the indicators, list for EDCTP.
Sorry, Veronique, can I just make an intervention?
You,
I think there was a question to EDCTP. So I think the answer is that it is a moving target, and as time changes, priorities change, the measure of success of networks also changes. So if you see in the first core, in the first round, it was really about breaking the culture of competing for the sake of competing and coming together to start learning how to build research culture by doing things together, sharing responsibilities and facilities, breaking language barriers, etc., which has been presented very well. Now, the point is, what do we do then in the next round? And I think this is where we need to look around what are really the priorities. And as the priorities change, the priorities of the networks should also change. And this touches on the areas that we can say they haven't done well. So some came out there, some look at these as closed clubs and that they cannot expand. We need to address that. How do we bring in new partners, new collaborations, new countries? And also issues of to do with the monotony. Some networks are strong in HIV, still some strong in TB, and some are far away from where the excellence is, for example, genomics and et cetera, How do you bring in that Pan-African kind of view instead of sticking to the same old regional regional approach. There's only one network that's reached out to another region, as you have seen Zambia being part of the Central African Network. But the same could happen for other networks. There's no restriction that you could work with Chad, Central African Republic, and all other countries, because it all depends on what you want to achieve and where the diseases are hiding from us before they cause a next problem. So that is the attempt for me to answer this. I would have wished that Michael Makanga was here, because I just taken his spot here because I'm the only one in the room that can answer this. But just to say that this is a program that has been closely monitored by our Scientific Advisory Board and the Scientific Committee of EDCTP3 is expected to take on board this flagship program, including some of you who are on the Stakeholders Committee. So I'm looking at you, like people like Frank Koblenz and others who can be our advocates to take lessons learned from here and tell us how we can do better going into the future as we face the next epidemic probably, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. More collaboration, sharing our experience, more networking between the networks, partnership, more exchange, new partner to be included, to be involved in our initiative, share our excellencies, expand to new countries, advocacy to valorize what we have been found during the past year. So, Professor, we'll close.
Yeah, I just want to close in a very simple way that I think those we have really listened to the presentation can honestly, I think, realize the great achievement since we start to now. I think many, many really fantastic achievements have been done so far anyway, but it's still not enough because we still have so many challenges. I think most of the challenges have been presented here, and what we need is, as mentioned my colleague, it's a moving target, like not only many other priority in public health in general. It's changing, and we just need to adapt. I think so far there are a lot of progress. There are many evaluations, as you mentioned, even by an independent committee, different from EDCTP, for each cycle of the network to come and assess what have been achieved, if this is really needed to continue or not. And so far, I think the results have been so positive. So I think having listened to really what we have listened today, we can say that those networks have achieved a lot of achievement, but they need to be strengthened and adapted to the new priorities. That where we, all of us, have the role to help on that. So I would like really to thank all of you for staying so late, the great presentation, and wishing you a very nice afternoon.
Thank you to you all.